Welcome to our hybrid selling webinar. You are very welcome to join us. We'll be together for about 45 minutes. We're going to be looking at how the world has changed and how we should be taking a more consistent approach to the hybrid working environment, particularly as sales and sales leaders, sales professionals and sales leaders. A little bit about Focus for Growth. We really are an organization that looks at business in a different perspective. So we really try to think about how, for our clients and for their clients and for the world at large, how can we as business owners, key leaders in our business, how can we be thinking about our businesses as a force for good, really thinking about how we connect more deeply, make a wider impact in the world. So that's the frame of reference for our discussion today. But let's talk about our hybrid selling workshop. This workshop is taking place on the 14th of October at 3:30 p.m. And what we're going to be covering today, our outcomes for today, we're going to give an opportunity for you to think about how you could become more aligned with other sales professionals as part of the programs that we run at Focus for Growth. We're going to cover the key challenges that our clients, and I'm sure people that you're working with in the marketplace, are facing with this hybrid selling and this hybrid sales environment. We'll look at three key principles that will help us change our approach to hybrid selling. And then I've got an invitation for you and some information around a program that we run on a regular basis in Focus for Growth. We have monthly intakes as part of that cycle. So let's start with a little bit about me. You may have seen me before. If not, my name's Justin Leigh. I am the founder of Focus for Growth. We are a sales and business and leadership company focusing in B2B selling and influencing. And we run programs with our clients to help them really break through to the next level of performance. Feel free to connect with me. You can see I have a Linktree account, Linktree / Justin Leigh, Leigh, all one word. And I'm an award-winning business leader, sales leader, and best-selling author of the business book, Inspire, Influence, Sell. And our programs, this material is all part of the approach that we have outlined in the book and is used by many, many organizations and many sales teams and business leaders. And what we find when we're working with clients is that a lot of teams have been, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, have really been eroded by the environment. They found themselves challenged by customers more than ever, challenged in their working environment. And that challenge over time tends to start to erode confidence. So we end up with teams that, even though they are on the surface high-performing teams or teams that seem to know what they're doing, they start to become a little more unsure of their approach. Performance is a little less consistent. And we can start to see that teams feel a bit overwhelmed with certain situations with customers. And what we help them to do through the models, the programs, and the approach that we take is just start to rebuild the confidence, rebuild capability, help them focus on key skills that we know are going to make the difference for them and their customers, improve communication, and that leads to greater consistency. And all of a sudden we have a cycle that starts to improve confidence and performance and then growth for themselves and their business. And at Focus Growth, we run world-class training programs on consultative selling. We also work with our clients on coaching as a leadership style. And we have some incredible companies that choose to work with us and partner with us. And we really are trying to help our clients to learn from some of the best businesses in the world, some of the best business practices in the world. And we are really honored and privileged to work with some incredible organizations. We have over 2,000 business and sales professionals using Focus for Growth principles, systems, and models now. We've been in operation since April 2018, so just over 3 years, 3.5 years. So quite an impressive portfolio of clients and professionals using the models and systems in relatively short period of time. My background is as a sales and business leader and over 25 years worth of experience. So the models really are born of best practice from working with some of the most incredible organizations, personally as a leader, but then as clients more recently in the last 3 or 4 years. I'd like you to think about your own role. The types of people that we have working with Focus for Growth and attending our webinars tend to be business owners, business leaders, we have sales leaders, we have high-performing sales professionals, we have people who want to be high-performing sales professionals, And we have some marketers join us as well to understand how we connect the sales and leadership principles to the marketing principles that they are running within their own organizations. We have some others, and we invite people to join us in the chat to share their roles, but generally speaking, these would be the key roles that work with us. The other key role that tends to work with us are sales trainers, when they're looking to refine and sharpen their own processes and programs in their organizations. We'd talk to breakout rooms. We have people join us and do some virtual intros. So at some point we'll have an opportunity for you to join either one of our live webinars, introduce yourself, your role, and what you want from working with Focus for Growth, or what you want from workshops that we run. Now, the world has changed. We know the world's changed. In the last 18 months, it's almost unrecognizable, the transformation that's happened in the working environment, and we must change with it. We know that office blocks are empty, our customers are harder to reach than ever before, and it's become a real challenge just trying to engage customers through the working practices as sales professionals, business professionals, trying to engage our customers when we perhaps haven't had that opportunity to see them for a while is more and more difficult for many sales professionals. Combine that with the fact that we are spending more time on online platforms, Zoom, Teams. We have more and more diaries, meetings, commitments, calendars are full, so customers just are squeezed and squeezed and squeezed in terms of their availability and their own capacity. So we know that a lot of customers are struggling either with the Zoom environment, not necessarily struggling being on it, but struggling maintaining energy and motivation towards it. So we really do, as sales and business professionals, have to entice customers to meet with us. Otherwise, we can just become, another casualty of them prioritizing what's important to them in their diary. And one of the pieces of research that's really interesting that we have been citing to customers is research by Tangible Words, that we talk about how many touch points it now takes to engage a new customer. And in the past, you will have heard of the rule of 7, where we were looking at 7 touch points for a customer. Just give you a moment to reflect on what you think it might be today, because the number astounded us when we looked at the research. It's between 28 and 36, from a cold customer through to becoming someone that transacts with our organization. Between 28 and 36 different touch points across different mediums and over a period of time that is variable depending on the customer. But it's quite incredible that we're now at 28 to 36. It just goes to show the amount of perseverance we have to have, and the messaging sequence that we have to go through to engage the customer, and the difference that we have to take in our approach to do that more effectively. One of the big challenges in the marketplace is this issue with investment in our sales teams. 55% of sales professionals have never been trained, is what the evidence shows us. And worldwide, globally, that number, there are estimated to be around 21.5 million sales professionals working in B2B sales roles across the world. Of those sales professionals, that's about 11 million people that have never been trained in selling. And I go back to my own experience, my personal experience, having worked as a sales professional in many organizations. The first role I had, I wasn't trained in sales. And it wasn't until I moved to my second company that I was actually put through formal sales training. Before that, they were training on the product, the organization, the market, the customers, but nothing about selling and the process of selling, the psychology of selling, the skills required to sell effectively. And so for the first couple of years of my career, I found myself just approaching customers in a way that actually was quite erratic. I would pitch far too soon and too early. I wasn't really connecting with the person before trying to engage them in a conversation about a product or a service I was trying to sell. And it wasn't until I understood the foundational principles and the optimal approach that actually I started to sharpen my skills, improve the approach, and really become much more successful. But it took me a couple of years. And you can imagine throughout that 2-year period, I suffered quite a lot with kind of imposter syndrome, self-doubt, anxiety, and quite a lot of pressure that I put upon myself. So anything we can do to help our own sales teams and sales professionals to get that training, get those proven skills and methodologies in place as early as possible, really does help them to avoid that anxiety and the accumulation of poor habits, poor behaviors that we then have to try and coach out of them later on. And one of the things that's really missing from a lot of the approach, certainly that I took early in my career, and a lot of the teams that I work with, here's one of the things that we tend to have taken for granted. And that is that we haven't quite created a strong enough reason why for the customer. We haven't linked together for the customer why they should spend time with us. And they'll only have that value from us if we do a few things differently in terms of our approach. And I love this quote. If someone says they're too busy to see you, we hear that a lot, right? I'm too busy to see a salesperson. It's a reflection of their perception of the value of seeing you or seeing me. So we have to really increase the value, and that value has to be through the lens of the customer, not through the lens of us and our organization. And that's where it gets tricky. So we'll cover that shortly. And of course, this Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. We must change our approach. The last 12 to 18 months has taught us that we have to evolve the approach in selling and influencing. It's what we cover in the book and in the programs. We have to change our approach. Otherwise, we're going to get the same results as we've been getting in the last 12 to 18 months. And for many sales professionals, that is lower engagement from clients and potential clients, and lower potential for growth. Their pipelines are smaller than they were because we're not able to connect with customers and create that relevance. So our client challenges. Client challenge number one is that sales teams lose confidence. They lose confidence and they lose engagement. And with that loss of confidence and engagement, we find that they then start to struggle with engaging new clients with meaningful value-led messaging. So once they've lost confidence, they then project that loss of confidence to the customer, and they start to unintentionally pitch messages that are lower value for the customer. And then what happens is they tend to almost challenge themselves and start to erode their own confidence. And because they haven't then developed the right mindset, they haven't been taught kind of the right principles, the positive psychology principles to persevere or succeed, then they tend to accept that rejection, and not accept it in a meaningful way, but accept it in a way that actually starts to further erode the way they feel about themselves and their performance. They become unsure of the right approach, so then they hesitate and pull back from customers and start to find all sorts of other activities that really aren't as impactful, but make them feel better about the work they do that isn't customer led. So we have to really start to train teams on the right approach to overcome this. Second challenge is around skills, so not developing the right skills for sales. And what tends to happen is that people haven't cultivated questioning and listening. They're the two critical skills. And those skills, questioning and listening, really help them to engage customers more effectively. But because they haven't delivered that, they're not really understanding what their customer needs. And so not only can they struggle with engaging customers, but when they do engage somebody, then that customer's not fully tuned into the conversation because they're not asking enough questions. And when they're not comfortable with silence, they're over talking and pitching features of their products, not benefits that link to what the customer's needs are. And so because they're not connecting the dots or creating solutions to customers' problems, they just start to become more and more challenged in their performance and the results that they're getting. And then finally, we find that in turn leads to this inconsistency, non-performance or delivery of consistent results. And so teams that can't describe the process they go through don't know what to fix. So they don't know which stages of the process to improve as part of their approach to selling. They're not using a structure for selling and communicating, and that variation in performance hurts their confidence, further erosion, and then starts to hurt the business and the results formed that the performance entitles in the business. And not systemizing the approach, not laying out the stages, understanding the stages that they go through, means that they get inconsistent results. They're plateauing or declining, and opportunity and potential is wasted within the organization. So the consequence is, of course, that as sales leaders, we turn up the pressure. We turn up the pressure on our teams. The teams get more stressed and anxious. And before you know it, motivation and morale decreases. There's a disengagement happens. We get resistance and defensiveness in our teams. and we apply more pressure. I've been there, I've done this, more pressure to improve, the cycle continues. And when we focus on the wrong things as sales leaders, performance gets more and more erratic. We overwhelm our teams, and we can even see over mid to long term staff churn increases. Our clients can start to sense that dissatisfaction in our team, so client satisfaction reduces. And ultimately, we start to unintentionally put the business and the company's reputation at risk. So we have to address this issue. It's burning for many clients, many people in the market. So we ask our customers, we ask our potential clients that work in focus growth, what's the number one challenge you're facing? Very often the challenge is around customer engagement. It's getting the customer to engage through the conversation, getting a positive response to either messages, or even if we've had a meeting, a follow-up, getting customers to maintain that momentum seems to be a real challenge. We have lots of discussions about this in breakout rooms and in individual customer conversations. And really the answer for us and for many of our clients is around showing people how to become world-class at selling and influencing. And that starts right at the beginning of our process, which we'll talk about. But the challenges of selling success can really be found in the foundations. And these are not only foundations of sales success, these are foundations of performance. The first foundation is around psychology. So what we do as part of our program pack is build on positive psychology principles. There are things we can do. There are activities we can encourage within our teams that we know will build and prime them to have a more positive mindset and psychology. And we teach those principles as foundations in all of our programs. So we get people primed and really believing that they can succeed, and understanding that once they believe they can succeed and we teach them the next couple of layers, that all of that starts to stack as their confidence grows and as does their positive psychology. The next layer then is about the skills that we teach them. They've got the mindset in place. What are the key skills that they need to develop in order to be successful at the job? We've covered some of them already. Questioning skills, listening skills, being able to connect the dots for the customer, but also being able to connect with the customer. And rapport is a skill that can be developed. The connection with the customer is a skill that can be developed. It's more natural for some people than others, but it can be developed. It is a skill. And then finally, once we've got the right skills in place, we've prioritized the skills, we then look at how we systemize through structure and processes, and taking that approach to give us much greater consistency. That consistency of the proven skills and systems and the psychology starts to stack, and we accelerate results and performance exponentially through taking that systemized approach. So that's what we are looking to achieve. So in terms of the three things that customers are able to gain from program, positive psychology first, we talk about confidence, belief, motivation to succeed. And when people believe they can succeed, they almost become unstoppable. It changes their own perception of what's possible for themselves. We use proven positive psychology principles and techniques, and then we learn to manage ourselves first. And in the management of ourselves, our ability to perform is exponentially improved. And so our teams try harder, they persevere for longer, work seems more easy and enjoyable, and actually they start to build on that continuum of success and positivity. The environment and the culture improves as a result as well. Then we look at the vital skills. What are the vital skills for improving selling and influencing? And really what we look at is the right skills for teams that enable them to improve performance rapidly. Firstly, we'll talk about this later on. We do some diagnostic checking just to make sure that we know which of the skills that are going to be most beneficial for teams. But when they learn and practice the right skills, talk to each other as a team about which of those skills are being improved, performance rapidly improves. And knowing how to engage customers every time really does make a difference to confidence, and it makes a difference to customer satisfaction. So Understanding that is really important. We'll cover that in today's webinar. And also we see relationships improve, we see team engagement improve and increase, we see performance and results just start to lift almost immediately after interventions like this happen, because people see that investment in themselves, and that positive psychology and skills really does transform very, very quickly. And then finally, we look at structure and systems. And following a proven sales structure improves this consistency. And having a simple structure gives teams the ability to kind of hold each other to account for the right structure. Leaders are able to then use that approach with their teams. And we use a model called Inspire, which I'll show you shortly. Using a mnemonic makes it easy to follow, easy to use, easy to repeat, and from a leadership perspective, easy to coach. And then finally, we start to see predictability. Results become more predictable, growth accelerates, customers are more satisfied, and it really does create, I guess, an environment where everybody feels as if they are winning. And the results for our clients are that they know, sales teams know how to perform and succeed, and they start to drive their own results. And team confidence improves, motivation and morale increases. And from a leader's perspective, from a team's perspective, it's great. From a leader's perspective, it's equally improved, because we can start to focus on development of the teams. We can start to look at capability and consistency rather than just pushing pressure and directing them towards more and more results. And so staff motivation and retention improves. Customers feel more satisfied because teams enjoy the work more, and we see this escalation in growth. So we ask our customers, what's the one thing you should focus on? Actually, what usually comes up is the order in which we've covered it. Mindset and confidence first, then thinking about, most people would say, I have to park myself, ask more questions, get closer to the customer, and then think about the steps that I put in place so that I really am able to reproduce results over and over again, which isn't always something that's obvious to many sales teams or sales leaders. And then when we look at the hybrid selling environment, actually, there are three key principles that help us to manage that hybrid selling environment. We have to think about the key role in a sales organization today. It's much more than just selling to customers. So as we approach the hybrid sale and the hybrid selling environment, we have to think first and foremost how we manage client meetings. Which of those client meetings should be in person versus online? Start to make some decisions early in our cycle and our planned approach. We think about priority customers. Which are the priority customers that we should perhaps see in person? And then we think about stages of the sales process. Where is it most important for us to be in person? And where can we then default and back away to a hybrid or a virtual meeting? Thinking about the reasons for the meeting. If it's a check-in or a review, then perhaps that can be online. If it's a problem customer that we need to address, or a customer that's gone off track and we need to bring them back on track, perhaps we should be thinking about that meeting in person. It might be more impactful for us and for them. Then we think about actually the client's response. What does the client prefer? And especially if they're a priority client, if they don't like virtual meetings or they're not consistent in virtual meetings, then we might have to make that investment of time. And then we have to think about management of travel time, our own time and the customer's time, in making sure that we're optimizing that as we approach which clients we would see in person versus online. And then secondly, we must consider, alongside the client or the customer meetings, we have to think about the other priority tasks alongside selling. Because in sales roles now, especially in larger organizations, the amount of additional workload alongside selling can be quite a distraction for us. So we've got to think about priority tasks, not everything that has to be done, because we'll never get to the end of our to-do list, but priorities. And one of the ways that we advise sales teams to get clear on priorities, a simple structure, is to write out the list of tasks that have to be done in any cycle, whether that's weekly or monthly. Rank them in order of priority before they start. And normally customers are going to sit right at the top. But there are other factors, other key tasks and activities that must be completed as part of the sales role. It's being able to separate one from the other. And then rank them in order, create a schedule for each week so that we start to plan and map out in advance what tasks we know need to be completed, and then complete them in order of priority. And that priority could be driven by either importance or urgency. And it's recognizing the difference between the two, that sometimes we have to flex from one to the other, but recognizing the difference and scheduling them in order of priority is really important. And then thirdly, start to think about a cycle of clients, tasks, and meetings, and thinking about starting with a plan. It doesn't matter if the plan doesn't always go 100% on track. Actually, it's about starting with a plan so that we've got something to reference as we go forward. And what we talk about is time blocking the diary, allocating a monthly cycle of key tasks, reviewing and amending on a weekly basis. So no plan stays intact. We have to keep reshaping, refining, and reviewing, and be open to flex as you learn what works and what doesn't. But really what we're looking to do is optimize our approach so that sales teams don't feel in reaction mode. If we start to build a plan, we feel as if we're in greater control, or we have a greater sense of control. It's really important for sales teams in this modern hybrid environment. So we invite people to discuss the approach they're taking, what changes they need to make. Very often it's about priorities and ensuring that not only do customers remain at the top of our priority list, but that we're clear on what the other key activities are that are coming at us on a regular basis, that we schedule and allocate time to complete. Really important that we do that. Builds confidence and that sense of control. Now, the number one thing that comes up, consistently, is about how we connect with customers more meaningfully. How do we get customers to engage more meaningfully with us? And really what we have to do is find a way to understand what's going on with the customers. Customers have so much noise going on right now. If we want to be relevant, we must find a way to cut through the noise of the customer environment. And here are 3 principles that we find are really effective as part of the approach that we take and we advise our clients to take. Number one principle is not just to think about the customer first, but to think about the customer only. So any messaging that we put into the customer about why they should meet with us, it should be focused solely on what's in it for the customer, not our business. Because by the nature of the fact that we want a conversation with them, a sales or a business development conversation, we will talk about what's on our agenda. But in terms of gaining the customer's engagement, we should only talk in language that's important or a priority for them. Second, we should talk outcomes. We shouldn't be talking to the customer about the content of the meeting. We should be talking about the outcome of the work that we may do together. And that switch to longer range thinking about outcomes, can really change the messaging that we put into the customers. And that switch in focus engages the customer. And then our third principle is a principle we call the power of peers. This is externalizing the messaging to the customer so it doesn't sound so pitchy from the salesperson's perspective. And really what we do is talk about other customers that are getting value from us or our business. And by doing that, we get an external validation. We create this position of authority, because if we are generating value for other customers, that has a sense of disconnection for the customer. So it doesn't sound as if we are bragging, it sounds as if we are sharing insights. And that's a key part of the approach that we take. And 3 things happen in the customer's mind when we start to talk about other customers getting value from us. The first thing that happens is that it generates curiosity from them in the conversation. Second is that they get reassured, because we're not talking about practicing something on them. We're talking about a proven method or proven results or process that we have in place. And the third thing that starts to happen is that they may start to feel as if they're getting left behind if their competitors or other customers like them are getting value that they aren't buying into themselves. So we get this fear of missing out, and that creates leverage that encourages the customer to engage. And final point on this is just thinking about, always thinking about the reason why a customer should meet with us. And we start with the end in mind for the customer, not the meeting, not our business, not the product we're selling, not about us, but the end in mind for the customer. And we think about the outcome of meeting us. Beyond that conversation, beyond that initial meeting, what's the outcome for the customer? Is it a greater sense of clarity, greater sense of confidence, a change to their plans, a change to the approach that they're going to take? Does that lead to greater, opportunity for them in the future? And to really start to think about the messaging that we might have to push towards the customer. And ultimately, any of us can only do one thing at a time. So for the customer, it really is a trade-off. It's a trade of their time doing something else for spending time with us. And if we think about it like that, we tend to respect the customer's time more and think more carefully and deliberately about the messaging. And ultimately, we want them to be thinking, this is so important that I must spend time with Justin. And that is really what we're looking to achieve with this reason why messaging. Really is at the start of our process when we think about selling and influencing. So we invite customers to think about changes they need to make to their own messaging with their customers or clients. So I invite you to do the same. Think about your own changes to messaging. And we know, as part of the work that we do with our own clients, we know that sales and business and leadership is a tough part of any organization. It's arguably the toughest role in a business is either the sales role or the leadership role. Without doubt, sales and leadership are the two areas that really create the most challenge for us in our businesses. And it definitely is easier, speaking from personal experience, speaking from experience of working with my own clients, it's easier when you know you don't have to do that alone. When you have a network, a supportive network of people who can help you either through the sharing of best practice, the sharing of ideas, the helping you process the challenges that you're going through, really does help you to feel more connected to your business and to start to think about how you make changes that are going to help you with performance and growth. And so at Focus Growth, what our mission, what we're aiming to do is to bring world-class sales and business best practice to our own clients. And our vision is to show our clients the stages and the steps they can take to become more confident, their teams more confident, more capable, and more consistent as market leaders in their own fields, to either reach that position or to maintain it and expand it. Depending on where you start with a program with us. We tend to work with market leaders or those fast followers in key segments. And our Inspire Influence Sales solution, I said I would explain the model. Let me walk through the model. We really do think about psychology, skills, and systems of the world's best sales teams. And we start in our sales interaction with rapport and relationships. How do we establish rapport really quickly with new customers, create a connection that's meaningful and has depth right from the outset? The second component of this is to think about established relationships with customers, think about leveraging key relationships and making sure that they are as solid as possible. And we look at this through the lens of the emotional bank account and how we could start to manage those relationships more effectively, whether we have to make deposits or whether actually it's about leverage and making withdrawals from the relationship. And once we've got those relationships established, then we are ready for our approach to the customer. We prepare first. We have a really simple 4-blocker for preparing for customer meetings. It's really impactful for sales teams with key accounts and larger B2B sales environments. We lead the conversation with the customer with insight and impact. This is about creating impact right at the start, so the customer senses the value up front. Then we have a needs discovery stage. So this is questioning, listening, summarizing, making sure that we understand the true needs of the customer. Then we have a solutions discussion where we join up the features, advantages, and benefits of our solution to the needs that the customer told us they have. And that connection of the dots for the customer really does start to create something more compelling for them. And when we've had that discussion, the customer is in a position where actually it looks as if it's going to meet their needs, then we would make a proposal with a view to getting agreement to that proposal. Now, you'll notice at this stage we have multi-directional arrows on our chart here. If we get to a proposal stage and the customer says no, we work back through the sales process to make sure that we've understood the customer's needs and presented a solution that's most meaningful for them. Our final stage in the meeting with the customer is immediate action. It's about maintaining momentum, urgency, and immediacy. And we really are future pacing here, making sure that we're not waiting until we're out of the meeting to create that urgency with the customer. We're doing it during that interaction. That's the final stage of our process, but then we look at how to reflect on performance, self-coach, and think about how we can continually improve the performance of our teams and the experience for our customers. So we're really trying to build this lifelong, loyal client relationship. And in terms of how we run that through a program, our open programs for sales teams work by, initially we invite teams to complete a sales acceleration scorecard. That scorecard gives you a report that will show you your strengths, your development areas, and your blind spots. And from that, you can then start to really shape your own program. So you get access to the program for 12 months, and you will be guided through each of those modules by a 22-day video coaching program. That coaching program explains how to work through the program systematically. And the idea is that in that first month, you'll be able to complete the program with that automated video coaching tutorial and guidance. We then have a series of monthly sales mastermind workshops where we invite our cohorts to join and discuss the program content, how it's working, the challenges they're facing in their own role, and really to get some live and interactive support on a monthly basis for the challenges and the priorities that they have within their business and their role. We have a private WhatsApp group where if anything that comes up in between those mastermind groups, there's a group there that I facilitate where we're able to answer questions and give immediate responses if people are looking for something more reactive within the month. And of course, there's continually evolving content. Every mastermind goes up onto the platform. So each month there's more and more opportunity to learn and grow from people who are on the program. And the investment is £150 per person per month for 1 year. Or we run bespoke sales team programs for larger organizations that might want maybe a 2-day workshop or some specific online tailored workshops. But the open workshop really does give people this option to work with other people outside of their own disciplines, outside of their own markets, and start to learn from some external perspectives, which can be really valuable in itself. And within our mastermind groups, we really have this great kind of approach and culture almost within them. You know, we're really important that we have confidential discussions, so we contract for confidentiality. We look at the group becomes a real community throughout our 12-month period together. We collaborate on different opportunities and try to understand what we can do to support each other through that collaborative approach. There's a real sense of camaraderie, some really good networks, interactions, and friendships are formed. And finally, that we really try, and I try to challenge people to really grow themselves, grow their business, grow their opportunity, start to think beyond just this program and think about their performance and future potential. So if you'd like to start your journey with us, please feel free. You can start with connecting with me. So you can either scan the QR code here, or you can look me up on Linktree /Justin Leigh, Leigh, all one word. And the first step of the journey really is the scorecard. The link is here. So access the Sales Acceleration Scorecard using the web address there. And what you'll find is that that's going to give you some really clear direction on your personal development. You can then preview our online program content if you follow the link on this slide here. So our sales mastery program, our Inspire, Influence, Sell online program, and that will teach you through short video content the different principles as part of our approach. Once you've accessed the scorecard, at the end of your scorecard report, you'll get a link to download the digital copy of Inspire, Influence, Sell. So you can have a free digital copy of the book. If you prefer a paperback, please feel free to grab your copy from Amazon, the Amazon bestseller, following the link here. And If you'd like to contact me, just drop me an email at justinleigh@focusforgrowth.co.uk, or send me a message, put a link in the chat to this webinar, and I will respond to you, send you details ready for our next session that's coming up with our monthly cohorts. Final messages from me are around values. Our organization, Focus for Growth, we really do see ourselves as an organization that tries to make a difference. And we have our 4 values. The first of those is about leadership. We all have the opportunity to be leaders in our field, and we should be thinking about leadership first. Leadership should always be on our mind, taking a leading position, whether that be with our customers, with our teams, with our peers, or in our local communities. Think about leadership first. And then secondly, we should be thinking about inspiring confidence in ourselves, inspiring confidence in our customers to deal with us, inspiring confidence in our organization so that people feel compelled and empowered to do their best work and to work with us. And then thirdly, we think about being a force for good, being a force for good for our customers, being a force for good for our local communities, doing business in the right way, and helping people to really have this intrinsic motivation to work with us because we're on a mission to do something bigger than ourselves. And then that brings us to our final values, which is about elevating performance. We should be continually looking to unlock the next level of performance for ourselves, for our customers, for our teams. And what that does for us is just give us this continual edge to grow, this continual aspiration to achieve our goals and perform at the highest level possible. And that performance is our leading indicator to greater growth within our business for us and for our customers. And you may have heard of the UN Global Goals. We are advocates for the UN Global Goals, in particular, Global Goal number 8 around decent work and economic growth, and how we can help our organizations, our teams, our clients to enjoy work, to see that work as meaningful, and to establish faster growth within their organizations, because that growth enables and empowers our customers to do more, to be a better influence for their own customers and the world. We're a proud member of the 1% Pledge. We pledge 1% of time to meaningful causes, and our meaningful cause is a group called Walk and Talk for Men, and I personally lead this group. And we have 2 walks every month. We bring a local community together in the Cambridgeshire area, and it really does help us to become and be a force for good locally. We have between 12 and 16 men join us, different men, most weeks, most fortnights. We are spending some time in nature. We're giving people the opportunity to process their own challenges, sometimes their business challenges, work challenges, sometimes their life challenges. And what we're really trying to do is provide support for people who need it most, and facilitate and coordinate support of people who want to make a difference and help other men. Just one example of the way that we as an organization are really trying to live our values and become a force for good in our local community. So our final message is about inspiring you to do the same. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. I hope you feel inspired to make a difference and hopefully to make a positive impact in the world yourself. If you'd like to join our mission, you'd like to join one of our cohorts, one of our groups, do feel free to contact me at justinleigh@focusforgrowth.co.uk, or check out the website focusforgrowth.co.uk or justin-leigh.com. And connect with me. Feel free to message me. I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love for you to join us on one of our programs, and to be thinking about yourself and how you could be a force for good in your own business, with your customers, in your own community. If you've got ideas around that, if you'd like to talk about it, if you'd like to become part of a community where that's what we're trying to achieve, as well as growing ourselves and our business, then do feel free to get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from you. And just love to say thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon, meet you in person soon. Thanks a lot. Take care.